Hi, my name is Dawn Boyer, and I'm going to review this coloring book that I received in the mail as part of a Kickstarter project. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about it so you can judge for yourself whether it was something that you wanted to pursue getting yourself. The author is Rafael Araujo. The book is Golden Ratio Coloring Book and was published June of 2016 by a publisher in Australia, and it is not available on Amazon at this point on the book page, although it is listed. So now that it's on Kickstarter, they may be concentrating on getting the book out in the public more before they actually release it on Amazon. Rafael is an architect and illustrator born in Venezuela, and for 40 years has been drawing pictures of architecture and nature, and got, I guess you'd call, obsessed with the golden ratio, pi, which is 1.618, which is found everywhere in nature. His illustrations have been featured in CNN World, Wired Magazine, WWF, and exhibited at Stanford University and other art galleries. There are 25 illustrations in the book, and the level of coloring competency needed is mostly intermediate to advanced, although there are a few beginner level pictures in here. I did purchase the book directly from the artist via a Kickstarter campaign to finance the publishing of the book. The minimum pledge to receive the copy of the book was about $42 US, and was supposed to receive 2 collectible first edition copies of the book plus a PDF with all the drawings featured in the book so you could print them out to practice, but I only received this one book for my pledge. So I was a little disappointed in that, and have yet to be able to contact the artist to see if there was a reason why the pledge did not come through like I wanted. So the book does have 2 end covers that fold out, and they are of a consistency of paper that if you wanted to actually color them as part of the coloring book, you may certainly do that, and they may turn out quite attractive if you did try that. The author of the book has created the book in 9.5 by 9.5 inch pages. They are not perforated, but it looks like if you gave it a little tug, the pictures would pop out easily from the glue-bound spine, and then you could put them down flat to color. The pages are cream and they're very thick, so I think you could use wet medium for it, gel pens, or even watercolors, but I would still put some paper in between just to keep them from bleeding through, just as a safety precaution. You will notice that this particular design is based on the Fibonacci spiral. There are some what looks like pencil lines in the background that I think he used as a baseline to create the drawings. The drawings throughout the book are not all perfect lines. You'll see that the lines are sort of light up here, dark here, maybe darker there. In some areas it looks like the lines have been skipped, and this is pretty much for all the pictures in the book. So they were created in the end product to be used as a coloring book, but I think that the artist really intended for you to look at them as artistic pieces of work. This is one of the simpler pictures in the book, page 2. You'll notice again, like I mentioned, some of the lines are not necessarily perfect, and looks like he skipped a little ink there, and there's a variation of dark and light lines. Here's one where he had a little burp with the ink pen there. He didn't quite get the line solid here. It's sort of light. There's dark and light line variations. So this might be good for a beginner colorist, or maybe one going into the intermediate stage. Again, here's a Fibonacci spiral of circles. So the Fibonacci spiral is based on pi. You can see the calculation formula right up there. And again, the lines are not all perfect, and there might be little overlaps or burps where the ink spilled or moved over and he did not clean them up. Some of the lines are not perfect, so these circular lines here, you could see where he stumbled a little bit, and so the lines right here in spaces would be extremely hard to color, but as it opens up, the design spaces get bigger and bigger, then it would be easier to fill in with color. Here again, the Fibonacci spiral and the circles that came out of it, and these are various dark and light lines. This one might be a little bit harder to color because of all the lines. Now here the lines were not perfect. It looks like there was a lot of wobbling when he did the markups, and then there's some pencil lines in the back and some smears where the ink, he might have moved the ruler or did something. So if you're looking at these as perfect line coloring books, I think you would probably be best to not buy the book. But if you're looking at them as a coloring book that is based on what they call sacred geometry, it might be very appealing. I actually like the different variation of lines. They're much lighter here, they're darker here. Here there's a little bit of stumbling where the pencil outline didn't create a solid line. Here's one. This one right here, I think that either the ink smeared when he pushed a ruler across it, or there were some pencil marks that he had put down and it smeared when he moved across it. So that is a little disappointing in the book, but for a colorist, if you're going to be coloring it in, it may cover up, so it may not matter. Here is one that looks like it's got some very appealing circles. Now, they're not all the same, so if you start over here and start matching up the little pieces and parts to over here, you're going to see that they don't match. The ones here are not the same as over here. Over here, they're just lines going in as radii into the circle, whereas here the petals have been drawn in and the full petals are half petals. So just be aware, and see, here's where the line didn't come through all the way. It sort of stumbled, and it's stumbled here, whereas these are solid lines. This one's very attractive, with the unfortunate fact that there was some smearing of the lines. Now, I don't know if this happened during the publishing process or if it actually looked like that when he drew it and submitted it for the book. Some of the lines are very light and the pencil marks looks like they stumbled, and then others, the lines are very crisp. This one looks like it would be good for a beginner colorist, but again, the lines have smeared. And this is a icosahedron. And it's very interesting that he's got like these little, I don't know, marks here, and it looks like the Fibonacci spiral inside the icosahedron, and then it looks like these are where he lined up the various inside parts of the book. Here's a dodecahedron, same process, I believe. This might be good for a beginner to intermediate colorist. Again, they are not all exactly the same. It looks like he picked and chose which one of these he wanted to complete all the circles in. So this one has no circles in the star, where these have multiple circles with cross lines, and these just have the circles with simpler lines. Now this one is reminiscent of a Persian tile pattern. There are some pencil lines that did come up inside the drawings and are left behind. So you may either have to color over them to cover them up, or just simply ignore them if they're much lighter colors. This page I would probably have to say is one of the more perfect pages of the book. I don't see any issues with smears or strange patterns or light stumbling lines within the book, and it's a very beautiful and very well constructed pattern. Here is your circular hollow Fibonacci, which is reminiscent of a Nauticus shell, and it looks like he has all the design elements or planning elements over here for what he used to create the line drawings over here. Again, there are some background trace lines. I think if he had used a light blue pencil, since the book was colored in full color anyway, it would have been much more attractive and allowed people to have more design and coloring capability in that particular aspect. This page, like I was saying, all these planning lines out here and the pencils and the stumbling lines and what looks like smears sort of detract from the book. I think if all the planning lines were in a light blue and then he just drew the shell in the solid black, it would have been much, much more attractive. And then here is, like I was talking about, he actually used that process, but he went in personally to shade the edges of the shell to make it a little bit more three-dimensional. And over here it actually looks like some of the lines, the pencils or the ink smeared a little bit. So I don't know if he did that on purpose or if it was just where the ruler was rubbing against the design elements. This, it looks interesting, but I really would not say it's a page that is attractive or appealing to coloring hobbyists. It does look like maybe it was a planning model for a Fibonacci drawing, but it's just too much and too messy, and it really doesn't lend itself or appeal to people who want to design or color the teeny tiny small areas within the drawing. This one was pretty interesting as it's part of a larger drawing he has with multiple butterflies. I'm not quite sure what he based the shapes of the butterflies on, but I think the curvature was based on a Fibonacci or geometric circle base. And here is the larger drawing where he took the butterflies and had them going around. It looks like they're all facing this way, and then they open their wings and then close them again up at the top. So this might be a little bit difficult for an advanced colorist to understand and figure out what to do. Now this one, the butterflies are attractively laid out, but all the markings and things that are behind it actually sort of detract from the picture. As a colorist and an artist, I'm not sure I quite would know what to do with all this stuff in the background. And it looks like he's marked a lot of numbers and figures, and there's pencil lines, there's ink lines. I'm just not sure what I would do with this. And unfortunately, while the design might be well laid out, the same hue of lines for all the background drawing and planning and the butterflies, actually I think all this in the back detracts from the attractiveness of the butterflies, which I believe are either going in a spiral or a Fibonacci line. And then here is his explanation of a simple Fibonacci spiral. If you can look at it, it actually looks like a Nauticus shell in the shape, and this is a appealing shape that is found in nature. Here's the back of the book. Looks like another one of his very complicated designs. And again, I would love to have seen all these planning lines in a very light blue, and then the actual lines for the design itself in a dark black ink. And here is the cover of the book again. and it looks like he took that design that was very difficult to decipher inside the book and started applying color for the cover. Again, I think if it were me, and from my graphic design background and my artistic eye, I think if these planning lines were in a pale blue in the background, and then the actual design element itself were in a dark inked line, I think I would have liked it much better. So again, this is Rafael Araujo, Golden Ratio Coloring Book, printed June of 2016. 25 illustrations in the book. I would say it's intermediate to advanced colorist, and I'm not sure if the book is even available right now until after the Kickstarter delivery of all the featured books and finance books are out. So enjoy, and I hope you learned something.